Paul Dickov, Paul Merson, thank you very much for joining me today. Let's focus on the title race as a whole for the moment and just reflect on what has been a brilliant season so far. And perhaps, would you say, one of the best ever?
I think it's got to be, and it's not finished yet. You know, we've got 2 games left. Could go down to the last game of the season. You know, City obviously at Brighton, Liverpool at home to Wolves. And, you know, we talk about excitement and one of the best, you know, go back to 2012-13 when the Sergio Aguero moment happened in the last minute of the last game. We could see that again.
Does it take lots of twists and turns for it to be a brilliant title race, or this season just 2 really good teams that just keep winning?
Yeah, I think so. I think you've got to give credit to these 2 teams. This is a difficult league, and to just keep on churning out win after win after win. I mean, the pressure was on Man City. I think they were 10 points behind Liverpool, or 9 at one stage. I think it worked in their favour that they had their game in hand and they played Liverpool straight after. I really think if their game in hand was the following month and then they probably had to play Liverpool in March, then I think Liverpool would have run away with the league. I think it would have stayed a big gap. So, fair play to Man City. They've had to, I mean, to what, 12 on the trot in the league?
Yeah.
I mean, you do that on a Sunday morning and you'd be going... No, seriously, you would. In this day and age, you know, you never know. Keeper comes running out, brings someone down, he's sent off as a penalty. There's so many things that could happen in a football match. And for them to keep on churning out results... And what I like about these 2 teams, when you watch them, never panic. Never get the ball with 10 minutes to go and start lumping it in the box and everybody's trying to win balls. They just pass and pass and pass. And, yeah, I just think it's been absolutely brilliant. I think they've shown real class, both teams.
What is it that makes these 2 teams so far and away above and advanced the rest of the league?
I think it's going back to what Merson was saying. Yeah, I think it's incredible that you think that Liverpool have lost 1 game all season. And it's still in Manchester City's hands. That just shows you how good, one, Liverpool, but how good Manchester City have been, especially recently. Just from Manchester City's point of view, I look at the squad depth that they've got. I think that's the main reason that they're up there at the minute. Liverpool have managed to keep players fit. You know, I think it's massive. Van Dijk, obviously, getting named Player of the Year, and probably rightly so. You know, it would have been a close call, but the front 3 of Liverpool are exceptional, and the squad strength of Manchester City.
Manchester City last year, there were certain people that were saying that this is a team that now could be so dominant for years to come because of what they did last year, 100 points, breaking records left, right and centre. Does that make it even more special that Liverpool have managed to keep up with them and challenge them consistently?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. To go toe-to-toe with this, as Paul said, with this squad that Man City have got, as we say, there's a lot of players that Liverpool have had to play a lot of minutes, and if you always sit there and you think if Van Dijk gets injured here, what's going to happen? And you know, yeah, I just think phenomenal. But I still think at the same time, for Liverpool to go this long and only lose 1 game, and for Man City to have it in their hands with 2 games to go, I think this is bigger than last year, in my opinion, because they've been pushed this year. Last year, when you've won the league or you know you're going to win it, it's easy to go out and play a free-flowing way like Man City can play. There's no pressure, and you just rip teams apart. They've had to win games. There's been pressure on them. They've played second in a lot of games after Liverpool, and always having to win to stay in it. I can't talk highly enough. I think you look back on this for years to come, and to do what they've both done it's made the others look average when they're not really that average. And I say that because Tottenham are 3rd in the league. They're in the Champions League semi-final. And you're talking Arsenal, who are 5th, and Chelsea are 4th. They're in the Europa semi-final. So they're not that bad of teams. They've just made them look bad.
It's a very good way of putting it, actually, when you look at the standard across Europe. Yeah. You're absolutely right. You mentioned it a minute ago. City were 10 points behind Liverpool with a game in hand at one point. This was at December. But do you think that Liverpool fans will feel that they've missed a golden opportunity if they miss out on the league this season?
I think when you're 10 points clear, and even go back to the February time when City lost to Newcastle, you know, the gap went to 7 points again, and that's a lot of points to make up from March into the end of the season. But Liverpool, can you say, look, if they get 97 points and they don't win the league after losing 1 game, you know, you can't really say that, all right, you've not won anything, you've got nothing to show for it, but it's still a fantastic season for them.
Well, that's it. Then it comes to the argument of whether a trophy defines success for a season. Do you think it does, now more than ever?
It's all about winning, isn't it? It is all about winning. I'm a great believer. I just think you need to win, but Liverpool can take heart if they don't win it. It's still a long way to go. There is 2 games to go. anything can happen in them games. But what they can take is, and when I look at it, is this team's around. This ain't... When they didn't win it the year with Brendan, when Steven Gerrard slipped, you looked at that and you thought, that was your chance. That was your chance. You know, the team was getting on a bit. You knew it was probably going to go with Suarez and things like that. But you look at this Liverpool team, unbelievable goalie. The back four, when Gomez comes in, is a young back four. The front three are as good as anything in Europe. These are going to be around. They're around next season.
This is a team now that we get to the stage with Jurgen Klopp as well that is very much assembled by him, isn't it? It has his fingerprints over all of it, his says and the ins and the outs. Like Paul Merson says, is this a team that is now going to move forward and push next year and the year after?
I do, but I think Manchester City and Liverpool are so far ahead of everybody else, and I think a lot of it's down to the recruitment that they've had as well. You know, it's took Jurgen Klopp 3-4 years to get the team that he wants. You know, it's took Pep Guardiola, took him 2 seasons, 2 transfer windows to get the recruitment that he wanted and buying them in at the right age as well, you know, as in going forward. And I look at the clubs below them, I know Tottenham haven't signed them at all, but then Chelsea, Manchester United and Arsenal, the recruitment's not been right. And the reason for me why Liverpool and Manchester City are so far ahead of everybody else is because the signings have been out and made. Let's
just focus then on that, the Liverpool backline especially, because you've got Andy Robertson, who has obviously been brought in. Yep. I mean, Virgil van Dijk speaks for himself. Joe Gomez, when eventually he returns from injury. Trent Alexander-Arnold. All young players and all players that have been gone out and scouted for and brought in. Why has Liverpool managed to get it so right and there are other teams in the league that just can't figure this out?
I don't know. I mean, obviously Trent Arnold, he's come through the youth team, but the other 3, you know, people turned heads. Van Dijk, 70 or whatever million. Not being funny, no one that ever wins the league or wins anything. If you let in goals, you're not winning the league. So why not pay 70? I'm a great believer. Why not pay 70 million for a goalie or a centre half? Because, you know, you can have the best centre forward in the world who gets you 40 goals, but if you let in 60 and 70 at the back, you ain't winning the league. So it's hard. I don't know how they do it, and I think there's unsung heroes behind the scenes. You know, we're looking at Man United at the moment, we're going, they need a director of football. They need someone who's going to really have a clue who to bring in, because all they're doing is just bringing in people for the sake of bringing players in. Sanchez, Man City might want him, well, let's pay 350 grand. You've got to give credit to the people behind the scenes, because the hardest thing in the world is getting defenders. It's getting defenders, because people are all growing up now watching Messi and Ronaldo. People don't want to play at the back. They all want to play up front.
They want to be a number 10.
They want to be number 10s. They don't want to be centre-halves or full-back. No disrespect. And a lot of full-backs are more attacking full-backs. You know, they're great going forward. These 2 youngsters are good defenders as well. Yeah. They're good defenders.
Trent Alexander-Arnold especially, a young Liverpool boy, growing up there, basically living the dream and doing what every youngster around Merseyside would want to do.
It is, but it's what every fan wants to see.
Don't forget there's Everton as well.
Yeah.
Of course,
They want to see their own players coming through. You know, and it's the ages of them as well, like Merson said there. And I look at Manchester City and the signings that they made with Ederson, with Laporte, with Stones, Mendy, Bernardo Silva, Leroy Sané and Gabriel Jesus. You know, they were all bought around about under 21, under 22. You know, to try and build something going forward. But I look outside of that, Liverpool excluded, and they want to sign ready-made players here and now, you know, whether it's 29, 30, and there's no real thought going into the future of the club, whereas I think Liverpool and Manchester City have been brilliant at it.
Are there arguments on both sides of camp for saying that when you're in a team like Manchester City and you're youngsters and you're coming through, there is that competition because there are so many stars in that City team? When you look at their bench especially, there is that competition to keep playing and to keep bettering yourself to try and get in the starting lineup. But then do you think that they will eventually get to the point where they might struggle to keep hold of some of these stars? There are some sort of links with players and other clubs at the moment, the likes of Leroy Sané as well. Do you think they'll struggle to keep hold of anyone?
No, I don't. And I'll even include young Phil Foden in that as well. You know, he's going to be an outstanding talent. And Merson knows as well that if you're old enough, you're good enough.
Yeah.
You know, and I know the young kids coming through at City. What City have done and Liverpool have done over the last sort of 5, 6, 7, 8 years, they've invested heavily into their academy. They've realised it's not going to happen in 2 or 3 years. They've realised it's going to take a certain amount of time to do it. And with the players that are now coming through, that they're seeing that. And you know, going back to the Leroy Sané point, I just think he's been unlucky because of the form of Sterling and Bernardo Silva, who have probably been Manchester City's 2 best players all season.
But then he showed that actually he can come on and make things happen as well, change a game.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Man City. I think that's where they've just had the edge. Yeah. is when it comes to it, you look on the bench and you look at Jesus, you look at Sane. You know, Sane, and I thought he was a bit of the changing of the game at Old Trafford with his pace down the down the left in the second half. You look on the bench at Liverpool, and no disrespect, but he would look and you think, have I got anybody who's really going to come on and change the game? So for me, that's been but you've got to remember, Liverpool have pushed them all the way here. They're probably going to go one game, they've lost the whole season, going to end up probably 97 points. You've got to remember, they're in the semi-final of the Champions League, where I expect them to beat Barcelona. Over 2 legs, I expect these to beat Barcelona. This is how good this Liverpool team is, and they still might have to wait another year. I mean, honestly, you couldn't talk highly of Man City at the same time. If they stop Liverpool, it would just be unreal. It would be unbelievable for a team to lose one game, get 97 points and not win the league.
How difficult is it going to be for Liverpool now to have those 2 Barcelona games in their sights as well as they're running?
I think you've got to look at the Barcelona games now. You know, the league's out their hands at the moment. It is out their hands. So concentrate on the Barcelona game now. I think they've taken every game at one at a time.
I think it depends what happens tomorrow night in Barcelona.
Yeah.
How much they concentrate in the last 2 league games. You know, if they're still...
I think they're good enough to win their 2 games.
Of taking Barcelona back to Anfield and winning and get to a Champions League final, I think they might have their eye off the league slightly.
But 29 years. 29 years. I mean, they could end up winning the Champions League by losing more games than what they did in the Premier League.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
crazy.
That sums up that, you know, how hard it is to win the Premier League, really. It's probably easier to win the Champions League.
You mentioned just a second ago about how painful it would be to wait another year. When you've been that close and you've been in the mix the whole season, it's not just you've fallen away early, you had your chances at one point. How hard is that to lose it potentially on the last day of the season?
You know, I was fortunate. I was lucky enough to win it on the last day of the season, so I've been on that side of the thing. But what I would say is next season, Liverpool, I would think their first 5 games of the season are very important, because they'll need to get off to a flying start, because it will hurt. It will hurt, you know, because this is Liverpool. This is 29 years. I mean, when I was playing football, you only had to start the season and you kicked the season off and you went, right, whoever finishes above Liverpool wins the league. It didn't matter about anybody.
Finishing second.
You was never ever winning the league and Liverpool were 3rd or 4th. You know what I mean? So, for me, I want them to win it, you know. And that's no disrespect to Man City, but I just think...
I don't.
Yeah, I know, but Liverpool... I mean, I grew up and this is an unbelievable football club as well, and I just think 29 years... You know, that's why I would like to see them.
I think it would be hard for them to bounce back if they didn't.
Yeah.
You know, going back to being 10 points and then 7 points and then being so close, you know, and going into next season, you know, Man City they'll kick on again.
Relatively, I mean, when you look at the signings that they've made, though, it's still a relatively new team to gel together. They did bounce back from the Champions League loss. Sometimes can those losses on such big stages actually, and the Premier League, even though it's a much longer period of time, can they then add to your next season and fuel you a little bit more?
Yeah, but I think that the goalkeeper was massive for them. I think everybody knew that, and obviously
bringing Alisson in.
Yeah, he's been outstanding, and you know, Van Dijk, I know he'd been there since January in his first full season, and then obviously the 2 fullbacks have been amazing. So defence, we always knew how good they were going forward. So that goalkeeper was a big problem for them last year, as we all knew. And bringing Alisson in has been great, and I think we'll strengthen again in the summer. You know, and talking about what Merson was saying before about the strength and depth that Man City have got compared to Liverpool. You know, and I think to win the league, you need to have that quality to come off the bench, or if 2 or 3 are out injured, to come in, and that's what Man City have got at the minute.
I don't think Liverpool have caused much drama in the running. You know, they've done their jobs. Do you know what I mean? They've done it. You look at Man City and you know, yesterday Burnley. You know, huffing and puffing, first half weren't really at it, and you're thinking, whoa, the time's going here, and then they score, and then, you know, they had some great football. But the Tottenham game, they were fortunate in the league, very fortunate. You know, Eriksen could have gone down that day. You know, Son had a chance really early doors when he skins Stones. You know, so it hasn't been plain sailing, not as much as how ruthless I think Liverpool have been in the running. I think Man City have been efficient which is weird, really. I thought it'd have been the other way round.
They have done enough in every
Yeah,
single
they've just
game.
done enough, you know, but Liverpool have made it easy. I mean, Huddersfield the other day, it's 1-0 in 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Seriously, you could have gone, let's all get together now and do you want to go now? Do you know what I mean?
I've been impressed with City just doing enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Because,
yeah.
you know, but they've got the experience in there of winning.
But I think they've been fortunate at the same time. I don't think Liverpool have been lucky, but I think Man City have been a bit fortunate.
Do you think then, in that case, with 2 remaining fixtures in the Premier League, can you see this slipping up for City?
No, I can't, because I don't really think they've got out second or third gear in the last sort of month or so. You know, they've been efficient. Whereas earlier on this season they were scoring 1, and then before you knew it they were 3-4 at half time in a lot of games. Now they're being patient, but they've got experience in there of knowing how to win it. You know, every single player in that dressing room knows how to win the Premier League.
Yeah.
And then you add, you know, the experience of Vincent Kompany, who's came back in. You know, Aguero, David Silva, Fernandinho. That's huge. You know, and they're not going after teams and steamrolling them like we know they can do. They're getting the job done, they're getting the points because they know how to win the league.
There's a lot been made of that, the difference between Manchester City, who've got all that experience with winning the title, versus Liverpool, who have all the expectation of their fans, haven't done it for 29 years. But do you think that the team, those individuals in Liverpool, are feeling that pressure? Or do you think they're the kind of characters that can butt it off and just do their job?
No, I don't think that. I felt the pressure. As I said, I think they've won their games quite easily. They've gone up. You know, Chelsea, they beat Chelsea, go 2-0. I know Chelsea had chances, but you know, it was a hard game and they went and won that. They blow Huddersfield away when the pressure's on. You've got to win. I know it's Huddersfield, but you still got to win them games and they blow them away. Yeah, I just... You couldn't explain it. If you was writing a book and you was reading the book and it got to the end and you said, oh, this team lost 1 game and got 97 points, didn't win the league, you'd throw the book away. But they have got... Leicester's a hard game. You know, I watched Leicester last week against Arsenal and they blew Arsenal away. You know, my worry is, this is how big the gap is. Man City go to Crystal Palace 2 weeks ago and Crystal Palace were literally kicking the ball away and hanging on for the whole match. Yeah. And a week later they go to Arsenal, who've won 10 games on the trot
and beat them
and score 3 goals. Yeah. And that's where the gap's getting to now.
And we are going to get onto Arsenal shortly, and not only will we dissect their results, the rest of the teams that are trying to get into the top 4 as well, but let's focus our attention on the PFA Awards. We've just spoken about a number of players that made it into Team of the Year. The individual awards were announced last night, and you can see them up on the screen there from top to bottom, including the women's awards as well. Congratulations to all the winners. Let's first start with Virgil van Dijk, Player of the Year, followed by Raheem Sterling, Men's Young Player of the Year. Was it ever in doubt for you? Were you split in terms of your decision on who should win Player of the Year? Who did you go for?
Yeah, it was a toss of a coin for me. It really was. You know, Van Dijk's, we spoke about it as being magnificent. Raheem Sterling has been Manchester City's best player, bar none, all season. You know, I still think he's maybe slightly old at 24 to get the Young Player of the Year. But I think, yeah, either or for me. You know, that they've both been brilliant. I think what a lot of people forget with Raheem is, you know, people after being away at a World Cup as well tend to struggle going into the season. You know, and he's played a majority of the games as well. You know, his goals, his assists, his all-round play, and he's turned into a leader, not just on the pitch, off the pitch as well, and he deserves huge credit for it.
What about you, Paul?
It was a hard one, because I look at Raheem Sterling, who's playing with world-class players week in, week out, and he's not far off being the first name on the team sheet, and that's how far he's come in his game. I look at the other lad, though, and I think if he ain't playing for Liverpool, you can't tell me they'd be pushing Man City all this way. I think he makes that much of a difference. So I would have probably just give it to him. I would have, because I think if Sterling doesn't play, I've still got a case for Man City to win the Premier League. But I do like Raheem Sterling. As I say, he's playing with all them quality players. And he's probably the one they put. You ain't putting his name in pencil. His name's going down in pen.
He plays in all the big games. Every single big game.
Yeah, and you've got to remember this lad, as you say, in the World Cup, took a bit of stick last year as well. You know.
At the Euros, he took a lot of stick.
Yeah, I've got great respect for the kid. I really have. I'm a big fan of his. You know, to do what he does and everything that happens, and he turns up week in, week out, week in, week out. And if he doesn't play well, I think Man City struggle a little bit. He didn't play well at Old Trafford and they scraped home. you know, I think big player.
I think with Raheem as well, what a lot of people... You watch his work rate off the ball as well. You know, we all talk about the fantastic players that both teams have got. You know, the two teams there are up the top because they're the two teams that work the hardest. And Man City's press, 9 times out of 10, it's Raheem that starts it all the time.
And he's a strong lad as well. Strong lad.
And he has won, today it was announced, he's won the Football Writers Player of the Year. So whereas he didn't make the original one, the PFA award, he has made this one more than 100 votes clear, 60% of the votes there. And they said he set an example for this generation and also generations to come. They've praised his stance on racism as well, on and off the pitch. So in terms of his footballing ability, brilliant. But not only that, he's also had a lot to deal with away from football.
Oh, exactly, and that's why I have a lot of respect for the lad, a lot of respect, and he's stood tall and he's stood by his principles and he's done the talking on the pitch as well, and he's not scared to say what he should be saying, you know. And I think him and Danny Rose take a lot of credit, a lot of credit. You know, it's no good me sitting here and trying to talk about it because I've never been in that position and it's hard, you know. But I look at them two and I think a lot of respect for them,
it's the maturity,
two lads.
The maturity is shown as well. You know, he's not just come out and said anything willy-nilly. There's been a point behind it and he's been straight to the point. And, you know, sometimes when you hear people talking about things like this, you've got to... one, I think, players who come out and talk sometimes, you've got to back it up with what you do on the pitch and then come out and he's been an example for everybody.